Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's God's Magic. So today we're talking about First Kings chapter 3. And the last place we left off on was when Joab got executed, Shami got executed, the oldest of the King David. Is it King David? I think it's King David's son. The one that was trying to assume that he was king. He was executed too. And then that's when King David died and passed along his power to King Solomon, which is his son. So that's where we're starting at. Now, so I'm going to start on, let's see, 1 Kings chapter 3, just in case. Okay. Now, Solomon became a son-in-law to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and formed an alliance by taking Pharaoh's daughter in marriage, and he brought her to the city of David, where she remained temporarily until he had finished building his own house. And it's got in quotation, palace. And the house of the Lord and the wall around Jerusalem. But in the meantime, the people were still sacrificing to God on the high places, hilltops, as the pagans did to their idols. For there was no permanent house yet built for the name of the Lord. Now Solomon loved the Lord, walking at first in the statutes of David his father, except for the fact that he sacrificed and burned incense in the high places, ignoring the law that required all sacrifices to be offered at the tabernacle. Oh, Lord. Okay. Already starting off a little wonky. The king went to Gibeon near Jerusalem, where the tabernacle and the bronze altar stood to sacrifice there, for there was the great high place of Solomon, offered 1,000 burnt offerings on the altar. In the city, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream at night, and God said, "Ask me what I shall give you." Okay. And then Solomon said, "You have shown your servant David, my father, great loving kindness, because he walked before you in faithfulness and righteousness with uprightness of heart toward you. And you have kept for him this great loving kindness is in that you have given me a son to sit on his throne as it is today. So now, Lord, God, oh Lord, this is tripping me up. So now, oh Lord, my God, you have made your servant king in the place of David, my father. And as for me, I am a little boy in wisdom and in experience. I do not know how to go out or come in. I do not have to go out or come in. Give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, sorry, y'all. I got a phone call. So where were we at? He was talking about how he has little experience. I do not know how to go out or come in. That is how to conduct business as a king. Your servant is among your people whom you have chosen, a great people who are too many to be numbered or counted. So give your servant an understanding mind and hearing heart with which to judge your people, so that I may discern between good and evil, for who is able to judge and rule this great people of yours. Now, as it pleased the Lord, Solomon had asked for this thing. God said to him, "Because you have asked this, and not have asked for yourself a long life, nor wealth, nor for the lives of your enemies, but have asked for yourself an understanding to recognize justice, behold, I have done as you asked. I have given you a wise and discerning heart and mind, so that no one before you was your equal, nor shall anyone equal to you arise after you. I have also given you what you have not asked, both wealth and honor, so that there will be anyone equal to you among the kings for all your days. If you walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and my commandments, as your father David did, then I will lengthen your days." Then Solomon awoke, and he realized that it was a dream, and he came back to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and he offered burnt offerings and peace offerings, and as he prepared a feast for all his servants. Whew, okay. Then two women, okay, this is like right after he prayed this prayer, there's an issue that's going on with, because the king is the one you go to for the judgments, and you basically, he's kind of like the judge. He kind of decides what your your life's going to be like. If you're going to jail for this certain thing that you did, or however that he decides, because he has that power in his kingdom, if that makes any sense. So since not David, that's the father. Since Solomon didn't ask for anything selfish, God replaced what normal people would ask for in that situation, because all King Solomon wanted to have was a discernment in his heart to be able to judge the right way and not have the judgment of his own mind, but of the Lord. And so, as we're seeing in the prayer, all he asked for was a discerning heart to know the differences and stuff like that. So because he didn't ask for wealth or a long life, God actually granted him more of everything he didn't even ask for. So this is kind of like the next part of this is kind of where Solomon's judgment comes in and how God helped him. So then two women who were prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. Give me 1 second, y'all. I'm sorry, y'all. I got called again. We're going to get back to it. Okay. So the two women who were prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. And one woman said, "Oh, my lord, this woman and I live in the same house. And I gave birth to a child while she was in the house. And the third day after I gave birth, this woman also gave birth, and we were alone together. No one else was with us in the house, just us two. Now this woman's son died during the night because she laid on him and smothered him. So she got up in the middle of the night and took my son from his place beside me while your maidservant was asleep, and laid him to her bosom, and laid her dead son on my bosom. Then when I got up in the morning to nurse my son, behold, he was dead. But when I examined him carefully in the morning, behold, it was not my son, the one whom I had born." Then the other woman said, "No, for my son is the one who is living, and your son is the one who's dead." But the first woman said, "No, for your son is the dead one, and my son is the living one." This is how they were speaking before the king. So they're basically arguing in front of the king and presenting their case. Like, they're not even sitting there and taking what they're going through as a lesson or any type of humbleness. They're just like arguing in front of the king. And I can just imagine King Solomon, after watching his dad David go through all these arguments with people in the kingdom when he was little, just imagine him now hearing this bickering before him. So let's see what he does next. Then the king said, "This woman says, 'This is my son, and this one who is alive is your son, and the dead one.' And the other woman says, 'No, for your son is dead, and my son is the one who is alive.' Then the king said, 'Bring me a sword.' So they brought a sword before the king. Then the king said, 'Cut the living child in two, and give half to the woman and a half to the other.' Then the woman whose child was living, then the woman whose child was the living one spoke to the king, for she was deeply moved over her son. And she said, 'Oh, my lord, give her the living child, by no means kill him.' But the other one said, 'He shall be neither mine or yours, cut him.' Then the king said, 'Give the first woman who is pleading for his life the living child, by no means kill him. She is his mother.' When all the people of Israel heard about the judgment which the king had made, they were in awe, reverently feared the king, for they saw the wisdom of God within him to admire justice." That is, hello, how are you, Miss Drew? That is crazy how King Solomon was brought a whole baby. And, I love how I was reading it just a minute ago in Solomon's prayer when he's praying for selfless stuff and he's praying for justice. He's praying to discern how to do judgment like his father did, because King David walked in a different power of God that King Solomon did. We're supposed to do better than our bloodline, if that makes any sense. Like our ancestors that are not here no more, but they're with us in spirit, we need to do more than they did. And the Bible actually says we'll do more than our parents did. And that's just that's a fact. It's in there. So when King Solomon was praying for this wisdom, this knowledge, this discernment to just wisely without just throwing, that's how David did. King David, his father, did not just immediately go to a solution. King David would have to pray and figure out what to do, because if you make the wrong unjust action back in the kingdoms, it just kind of didn't go so well, because now that King Solomon has prayed for discernment to know, basically, when that test came up from the two women that were arguing over the baby, King Solomon had the discernment of God to know that one wasn't the mother and one was. But the mother who decided to plead for her baby's life and rather sacrifice her baby and not see her or him again and be like, oh, we'll give her the child, let him not be harmed. And the other one's like, oh, well, you know what? Neither of us will have them, so cut them in half. You know what I mean? So that to me is crazy, how King Solomon instantly discerned all of that really quick, because discernment is higher than a physical knowing or sensation. It's like discernment can be so many things. There's so many aspects of the discernment, and people don't realize that King Solomon got the discernment of justice, like to discern when good and evil is in front of him, to discern just and unjust, to discern like basically who the foe and who the true is. And it's really cool to me. I mean, this was a short chapter, but it was really good to me, because that explains right there how people are still in today in 2025 from 2,000 years ago, how pettiness is still here and how people just don't care but for themselves. You know what I mean? And King Solomon was a powerful practitioner to me, in my opinion, and like there's more about him, and this talks more about his power. Like the next chapter is about Solomon's power, wealth, and wisdom. So, I mean, King Solomon has a lot of history, and it's really cool to me. And like, there's books on him, that I want to actually get. That way I can go deeper with it. But like let's see, like we have, okay, so Solomon is like continuing to go on with his, I'm looking so that way we know how much we got left. Let's see. Okay, wealth, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, Solomon. See, like this one right here. So in chapter 11, I'm just going to give you a little cliffhanger for today. Solomon turns from God in chapter 11. So we got a long way to go to understand his power, understand his communication skills, his spiritual gifts that he did have. So I can't wait to get the chapter. Oh God. Okay, never mind. I'm not telling you that, but we're just reading on King Solomon in the Book of Kings. So we got a little bit to go, but like, his lifespan isn't as long as his father's. Let's just say that, unless I'm wrong and I'm just mislooking. But we're going to be reading about King Solomon a lot on the next couple of lives. Let me see. Sorry, I'm trying to get this little bookmark out. Okay, here we go. So tomorrow's video is going to be on Solomon's officials, and it's going to go through his people, his ancestors, his lineage, his tree. It also it just goes beyond, and then talks about Solomon's power, wealth, and then that's it. But I might do chapter 4 and 5 tomorrow, because I'm just really interested in what we're doing is we're reading the King's book and stories, because a lot of Solomon's magical practices with God are in here, and what he did, a lot of it, not all of it, because they have the Hidden Keys of Solomon books and stuff like that. But to actually read about his power, so we know that he has wealth and wisdom and power. Like that's one of the gifts that God gave him, or 3 and 1 at that point, because God said, I'll just give you more than what you asked for. So we're really going to be getting into Solomon's magic and what he did, and the ceremonies he practiced and stuff like that, and how we can incorporate into our daily life, because all of this was instructed by God. And there's like different incense they burned and stuff like that. There was a whole altar where Solomon had at this time, I guess, because it said they were building they haven't even built a palace, their house yet. So I'm guessing it was a moment where they didn't really have a lot in that moment when King Solomon took Pharaoh's daughter to be in marriage, if that makes any sense. So now we know that King Solomon made an alliance with Egypt, with Pharaoh. And so now we're going to see what happens next, because this is where it kind of goes into deep detail about King Solomon stuff, about what he did and stuff like that. So we're probably going to do chapter 4 and 5 tomorrow. But I hope everyone enjoyed this, and I'm sorry for the interruptions today. Yeah, tomorrow will be definitely better. I won't have no interruptions, but we're going to start on that. So if you're just watching this, and you rewatch this, just know that it's going to be explained a little bit better than I can tell you now. So tomorrow definitely will be chapter 4 and 5 because I really want to know what happens. So I'm trying not to read it so I can read it with y'all because I've already read from chapter 1 to 3 before I started making these lives. So what I'm going to do is not continue reading, and tomorrow I'm going to completely I'm not going to know anything ahead of y'all. So I will see y'all tomorrow. I have to film another video for my Patreon, so I got to get off of here and do that. I hope this was enjoyable for you. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you continue with this journey on learning about King Solomon. So I will see y'all tomorrow. I love you. Bye.